Cliff. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Lone Ranger today as C3 is down in Cabo celebrating the 4th. And speaking of the 4th, we have a firecracker on the show today. Just about 3 years in the real estate business, and she is blazing trails all over Phoenix, Scottsdale, and in the Utah area, Salt Lake. This woman is incredible, and you're going to meet her next. Michelle Pauley, right here on Cliff's Notes. Real estate agents, are you struggling with the day-to-day grind, dialing for dollars, putting in hours of floor time with little to show for it? Are you looking for tips, tricks, and tactics to accelerate your career as an agent that will have you closing more homes, working with more clients, and earning more money than ever before? Hi, my name's Cliff Freeman, and I've spent the past 2 decades of my real estate career running one of the top brokerages in DFW and personally coaching over 1,000 high-performing real estate professionals across North America. I created this podcast to share the strategies and tactics you need to explode your real estate business. I guarantee it. Yeah, we're still doing the guarantee, and I guarantee today you're going to want to pay close attention to this one. I met Michelle about 3 weeks ago at a roadshow we were doing for Comloan, and I want to tell you what, you know how you meet some people and they impress you? They almost like overwhelm you. You're about to be overwhelmed right now. Travis, let's bring Michelle in all the way from Central Phoenix.
That's right. Well, thanks for the heck of an introduction there.
Well, you're very deserving and worthy, I'll tell you what. And you're just fresh back from the Dominican. How was your trip?
It was amazing. Amazing. Well worth the travel efforts to get there from the West Coast. And yeah, it was wonderful and amazing. And apparently my dog is barking in the background, even though my 12-year-old's supposed to be on that. So apologies. This is real life right here.
This is...
Yeah, Dominican was wonderful, and if I could go back tomorrow and retire on residual income there, I would.
Well, you're certainly working hard to make that happen. So I wouldn't be surprised to be doing a show from the Dominican Republic with you at some point here.
Okay, deal.
So tell us a little bit. You really have an amazing story, and we often get people like you that are uber successful. They get in and they don't, it looks like they've never failed in their lives. And you're one of those people because, I mean, you're persistent, you work your butt off, you're integrous, you take care, you're all about customer service. And you're just killing it. And some people find the real estate business really difficult. Watching you makes me think, well, gosh, this has got to be the easiest business in the world. But tell us a little bit about what it is that created this DNA with you that was such a perfect fit for real estate. Take us back as far as you can and tell us a little bit about some of the things that were not great all the time. Maybe tell us about some of the struggles.
Yeah. So I grew up in what would be probably known today as like a lower middle class household. I was born here in Arizona in Flagstaff, which is not exactly the affluent community that it was, back then. And I spent my childhood. We had 5 acres, but it was filled with junkyard cars that my dad had acquired over the years. Double wide trailer, redwood deck. I'm about as white trash as they come. But I'm like a country song backwards at this point in my life here. But I saw my parents struggle. My dad was a truck driver, and my mom was a stay-at-home wife. I was homeschooled for a lot of my career in high school and elementary school, junior high, 3rd grade to junior year of high school. And I grew up in a really strict religious upbringing, incredibly strict religious upbringing. A lot of people say it was a cult. I've just started adopting that as well, because it's much easier to explain that way. But it just, I mean, we didn't have a lot of resources. I mean, I remember, my dad took out our heat pump and installed a wood stove, and that was in the middle of the house, and couldn't afford to get our roof fixed. And so every winter, the rain and snow would melt over my bedroom, and my bed just happened to be right underneath that spot. But the only way we could stay warm at night was with an electric blanket, and so I had to sleep with a shower curtain on top of the electric blanket so it didn't get electrocuted. And it's just stuff like that I saw my upbringing, and I was like I never want to do this ever. Like, I don't want this for my kids. I want to be able to have the resources, first of all, to take care of the people that are important to me. And I don't want something that is, such an addiction that it causes scarcity of resources for other things too. Like, I saw my dad's car collection as definitely that. Like, I mean, these were not nice cars. These were just plenteous cars. And so it's one of those things that you grow up like that, and you absolutely never, ever want to go back. So I worked super hard when I got into public high school, my junior year of high school. I went to a really small high school here in town called Dysart High School. Had the number one, it was the highest teen pregnancy rate in the nation the year before I attended there. And I mean, it was tiny. Like, my graduating class had 110 people. And so it was actually, that's not true. 10 dropped out by the time we graduated. We had 100 people in my graduating class, so 10% dropped out. Yeah, I worked super hard during that time to be able to get an academic scholarship to get myself out of there. And scraped together enough scholarship money from other applications that I worked really diligently on, while being, a lead role in the musicals every spring there, and working a job, and getting straight A's, and, trying to apply for, all of these colleges and scholarships to claw my way out of this. And so, yeah, I got a lot of scholarships to be able to take care of my first year, which was thankfully such a blessing, and got a full academic scholarship to University of Arizona for 4 years, and enough to pay for my room and board the first year, because my dad refused to fill out the FAFSA, because the government shouldn't need to know that much information about you. I make him sound like a complete weirdo, which he is, but that's okay. And yeah, I mean, I didn't have any other access to, Pell Grants or financial aid, anything like that. I had zero credit, obviously. It was a cluster. But I worked super hard, and was able to get a resident assistant position the next year, kept my scholarship, so paid for room and board that way. And then I unfortunately was on the 5-year plan. So scraped together, asking my older sister for some tuition money to get me through my last semester of college, and finally graduated, and with my public health education degree. And I knew that I wanted to invest and just learn how to be resourceful for myself and for my family. And so it was a long struggle, but yeah, you can claw your way out.
I mean, that's a book worth of knowledge that you just shared with us. Maybe we should chunk this down a little bit. You said a couple of times something that I want everybody watching this show to write down, and that is that you didn't have resources, but you were resourceful. What does that mean?
I mean, it's not that I leveraged every single relationship and aspect that I possibly could, but I'm Irish and Blackfoot Native American. So I've got a work ethic like nobody's business, right? I learned that from my mom, and I knew that if I could put in the hours and just utilize, the intelligence that, God had given me, and just really apply myself, then I could probably be able to find enough resources to make me be able to leverage those resources in the future. It's not like the bootstrap story necessarily. Like, I mean, I definitely I wasn't dirt poor by any means, but it made me rely on really a ton of work and putting in the hours. I mean, I remember, it's funny that I'm a commercial real estate broker because I have to do math all day, every day now. And math was always like the biggest struggle for me. Like my mom did not push me in that when we were when I was homeschooled. And so like I was in remedial math in college right off the bat. Just trying to get caught up, and it did limit me in my career or my degree choice because of that. But I said, hey, like I'm going to make the best of every situation that I'm in, and I'm going to just apply that hefty work ethic and see what I can leverage along the way. If there's a relationship that has, perhaps an introduction that can be made, I'm going to ask for it. And if I can make those introductions for other people, then I know it can be reciprocated as well. And that's still like a huge function of my business right now. If I can send someone a referral for, a contractor or an architect or an engineer or something like that, and that brings them business, then I know that it's going to be reciprocated at some point. And so that's kind of the resources of that. Like, be a kind person, work super hard, and then, I mean, we don't get anywhere without, relationships in this life. So leverage the heck out of them if you can.
Are you a reader by chance? Do you like to read?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
What's on your
One
nightstand?
of my favorite hobbies.
What's on your nightstand right now?
Gosh. So, what's on my nightstand right now, not on my Kindle, which has a lot of historic fiction on it for sure. But like the business book that will help me, inspire me right now is Machiavelli for Women, by Stacey Vanek Smith.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a really enlightening book, and I'm still, taking a few chapters at a time and rereading it, and yeah, it's a fun one.
Did you read Chen Tzu and the Art of War?
I have that downloaded on my Kindle, but I have not read it yet. I've tried to get through Robert Cialdini's Influence.
Yes.
I'm listening to Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, and negotiating skills, and lots of fun stuff. But it's if I had more time, that would be a different story.
Yeah. What may I ask? What got you into reading? Most kids these days want to pick it up from YouTube or Instagram. Why did you decide that reading was what you needed to do?
Well, I am not a kid these days, so I will say that. I'm an 80s lady through and through. So, definitely, I'm one of those weird generational blips where I grew up without technology. My first cell phone was in my senior year of college. And my first internet project was my senior year of high school. So, it's I'm older than I look, a lot of people say. But what got me into reading is my parents, my mom especially, read to me almost every single night. We spent hours at the library picking out books, and I think it's one of those things that if you can spark that passion in children really early on, they never lose it. I'm happy to say that both of my children are readers. They are avid readers also, and like if you're not finding something that you're enjoying, or your kid isn't finding something that you enjoy, go to the library and pick out 25 books. And if they don't like those, stick to the next, start over, try more. It took my daughter until this last year, and she's 10 this year, to really get really interested in reading. And then she plowed through like thousands of pages in 6 months. Thousands of pages. And I'm like, okay, it just takes that spark and that interest to get you there. And that's what my mom did. I mean, we would read for hours a day.
And so your father was a preacher.
No, my husband is a preacher. My father was a truck driver.
That's right. Yeah. He was a truck driver. Yeah. Your husband, I knew your husband was a minister. Yes.
Yep.
And so how did that connection come about?
Um, yeah, so I grew up, like I said, in a very different religious, a very fundamentalist religious home. Kind of escaped a little bit of that when we moved to Phoenix for high school, which is when I started going to public school, and then got my scholarship to U of A. And I'm an adult for the first time on my own, being able to explore what I really believe. And I still had a really super strong faith of being across the world, being able to, on voluntary excursions, helping volunteer in areas, philanthropic ventures. And I met my husband in a Bible club, which is hilarious because I'm a commercial broker now. I drink and curse like a sailor, let's be honest, but we're Episcopalian now, so it's totally okay. Yeah, it's God judges the heart. So I met him in a Bible club. I was the worship leader. So I was leading the service, playing guitar and singing, and he was the drummer. So
Ah,
yeah,
yes, I love it.
yeah,
Music.
yeah,
That's
yep.
that is awesome. Wow, an incredible story. And then you guys have some beautiful children as well.
We do, yeah. We've got my 12-year-old son is Elias is yeah, it's amazing how kids are so much of you and so much of your partner at the same time. Like it is crazy how much they're a dead mix of both of us. But yeah, Elias is 12 and he plays electric guitar, loves classic rock, and got paid to be an opera singer this spring in Mozart's Magic Flute. Yeah, he's like a really gifted singer. And yeah, my daughter Elena is 10 and a spitfire. She's gonna run the world, when she gets old enough to do that. And she does improv comedy.
Oh my gosh, the apples
How
don't
does it
fall
go?
far from the tree, do they?
Probably not.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about real estate and
Yeah.
in particular commercial real estate. I'm sure that I thought there's never been a clear path that I could figure other than start with a big firm and go do tenant leasing and that kind of thing. What was your path into commercial real estate?
Yeah. So, my husband and I were in the era of HGTV, all of the fix and flip home shows, and so we started our path in real estate by doing fix and flips ourselves. So we would buy the worst house in the best neighborhood and try and turn it around, and we did that a good number of times. But I had done enough transactions in real estate to know that I was fairly comfortable with contract reading. That might have been my LSAT prep too for my days of wanting to be an attorney. But we started investing in real estate, and my sister begged me to get my license. She desperately needed a transaction coordinator. And so she's like, Michelle, you can stay at home, you can keep volunteering full time if you want to, but I need someone to be a transaction coordinator, a licensed transaction coordinator, to help me to support my business in residential. So I got my license, and I got my license January 30th, 2020. And I got my first listing January 30th, 2020 as well. And got to sell my sister-in-law and brother-in-law's house right off the bat, which is, if you know anything about real estate at all, oftentimes your family doesn't actually give you the business. So I was really, really thankful that I got that experience right before the world shut down, essentially. Closed that transaction, and I kind of did an inside sales track at that point, just because we've got some health conditions in my family. My mom was living with us during, the COVID shutdowns, and I did a lot of phone calls and made a lot of phone calls and did a lot of that lead gen and lead follow up at that point. and had a very successful year and a half in residential, but I very quickly realized that those people were not for me. And by those people, I mean the average first-time house buyer, right? I could not, for the life of me, get them to realize that if they just chose a house, 2 miles down the road, they could probably make 70 grand more, because I had to sell the American dream of that first house and that type of stuff. So I realized that I didn't want to keep spinning my wheels with people who wouldn't listen to my advice if it came down to it. Those people who did came back to me and were like, Michelle, I made so much money. I can't even thank you enough for like guiding me the right way on how to think of this. And I found that I worked really well with investors. I worked really well. Oddly enough, I got started with my first apartment rental because a former employee of mine, when I worked at Starbucks as a manager, reached out to me. And she was like, Michelle, I get discriminated walking in to rent apartments. Can you please help me out? And of course, I was like, I don't want to do apartment rentals. Like, come on. But I appreciated her candidacy with this, and being so transparent. And I was like, I will help you 100% of the time, like leverage those resources, right? So I was like, look, I'll look into getting you an apartment. And so couldn't find anything on the MLS that she was looking for, started digging around apartments.com, and the apartment that I found essentially for her, I walked in, and the guy who owned it happened to own 150 doors in Phoenix, all small multifamily. And I had nothing else to lose. I'd never done a rental before on the residential side. And I just said, hey, like, what in the world are you doing? Showing this apartment. Why don't you have an agent doing this? Why don't you have a property manager doing this? And long story short, I ended up renting out about 16 of his apartments in the next 6 weeks. I worked my tail off. And then he started giving me some of his smaller multifamily listings as well. That's part of the success in that small residential space that I got. But I saw that and thought, this seems like the person that I would want to do more transactions with. This is the type of client that I would love to keep representing. And then one day I was driving home and I listened to a story on the news, and it was that the highest ever residential transaction in Arizona had just been conducted, and it was something like 43 million or something, right? And I was like, wow, that is amazing, a $43 million house. And I will never, ever, as hard as I work, be able to represent the one $43 million residential house. And I looked at the corner and I said, I bet you that commercial property is worth $43 million. And I looked at the other corner and I said, and I bet you that corner is worth $43 million. And I looked at the other corner and I said, I bet you that corner is worth $43 million as well. And so I quickly did the math on the really rough math, and I was like, we've got $120 million worth of real estate sitting on 4 corners right here. What am I doing? I've got to start working smarter and not harder, and to be able to get some traction in this. And so I took the leap. I did not want to be the volunteer, junior agent at CBRE. I don't know if I can say brokerage names on here. Whoops, sorry.
Sure, have at it.
We can blurb that out.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be the intern. I couldn't afford to be paid nothing to work for free to learn commercial real estate. I have my MBA. I am flippin' smart. I can figure this stuff out, and what I can't find, I will leverage resources to be able to find the answers for myself, for my clients. And I knew that EXP Commercial had come about, and that they had a killer mentor program, and that they had classes that would teach you what to do with commercial real estate. And so I said, look, I'm just going to take this leap. I had a bunch of money in savings for us to be able to live on for 18 months or so. And I said, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna take this leap and just take this leap of faith and go for it. And I have never looked back, not once.
That's pretty brave, I would have to say, but it doesn't surprise me um, coming from Michelle that you would say something like that. But there's a lot of unknowns there, especially going from residential to commercial. That's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
So now you operate in Utah in addition to Arizona. How did that come about?
That came about because of my mentor, actually. So, Dr. Bill Nieves is I don't even remember what the role is. He's a big head honcho in EXP Commercial now. So, senior principal, executive broker, something like that. So, he was my mentor, and I graduated my mentorship in when did I graduate? October of this last year. But I finished my Utah license in July because he kind of made the ask to a certain number of his mentees, hey, like, I need some assistance up here in Utah. I still have all of my referral business. There's not a lot of brokers, so I can't, like, there's not enough brokers for me to keep handing stuff out to, from the referrals from the realty side. So I desperately need a business partner, and I was the only person who took him up on that. So got my Utah license, and it's 120 hours in Utah. And the reason why Utah, like, obviously because Dr. Bill is up there, but it's a turf state, so I can actually conduct commercial real estate in almost any state in the union here. So yeah.
Huh.
Welcome to commercial real estate. Yeah, so we can do co-brokering agreements with the designated and managing brokers across the U.S. In non-turf states and non-physical location states. So there's a map that I look at, and there's only like 5 that I have to either have a license at or I have to only refer to. So I've got a couple of transactions I'm working up in Washington, for example, right now. But Utah is a turf state, so you're required to have a license there to be able to sell real estate. And it's an hour and a half flight from Phoenix to Salt Lake. So, and it's a very similar market as well. It's got a ton of industrial, which is exactly, I mean, that's not my specialty, but I do a lot of industrial representation. It was an asset class that I was super familiar with. There's tons of square footage up there available. And I said, what the heck? It's an hour and a half flight. Like, not a big deal. I can make this happen. So, got my license up there in July, and closed more transactions up in Utah this last month than I did down here in Arizona, which is insane.
Oh my gosh! What's the now? You mentioned that Dr. Nives is helping with some leads, but what's the major source of your business up there now? Is it still referrals or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is referrals. Like, that's the great part about EXP Commercial, and just the fact that we have so many fantastic realty agents that we can partner with and broker with, because if it's somebody in state, for example, so if I hold a license in Arizona and they're a realty person in Arizona and they happen to have, some commercial real estate experience, we can co-broker a deal together. So maybe they've got a 5-plex multifamily. We can co-broker that deal, and share that commission, share the job responsibilities, because that's an in-state thing that we can do. Or if they have no experience whatsoever, then we can just do a referral agreement. I do a lot of networking, especially here in Arizona. I run 2 pretty solid networking groups, and I'm involved in a 3rd networking group as well. And so I do a ton of outreach to our realty partners, really, because there's what, 3,000 agents on the realty side here in Arizona, and there's, I think, 18. Well, I just added 2 to my team yesterday, and a rev share line yesterday. So there's like 20 of us now in Arizona. So I mean, if you look at that proportion, like 3,000 to 20, like, we shouldn't on the commercial side be doing anything else other than reaching out to the Realty folks. Because if you are representing someone who is buying a house, chances are they have a job. Like, they probably work somewhere.
Right.
And guess what I do? I broker those deals for where they work, you know? Or if they're buying a second home, chances are they're a successful entrepreneur. And guess what they probably also want to do? Find a place for their business or invest in commercial real estate, because they're no dummies, right? So those residential realty agents are key to really maximizing our production on the commercial side. I started out like, hey, like, why can't I get referrals? And I just said, like, I'm gonna give this up. Like, I'm not gonna be upset if somebody on the realty side is still trying to work a commercial transaction. You do you. I don't care anymore. I'm gonna go after those folks who don't have the experience with it. I can give them a healthy referral agreement, and I will do that all day long, every day. And so that's what I do. That's my lead gen, is I do events and I talk to residential agents.
Well, I mean, you certainly do have a great pool of agents. You know, we, as realtors, self-employed borrowers, you know, that you know, you always run into that with the lender, you know, trying to get the mortgage, and you go, oh my God, they're self-employed. Well, now it's like, hey, they're self-employed. Maybe they need you know, a new distribution warehouse or something, right? You just have to be, what's the word? Resourceful. Yeah, exactly. Well, so what's it look like? You chose, did EXP choose you, or did you choose EXP? Why are you over here?
Why did I choose EXP?
Yeah.
Because my little sister told me to.
Okay.
So that's the real reason. So I mean honestly, like, it probably wouldn't have been my first choice, and I'm just gonna be really candid. Like, it wouldn't have been my first choice coming into residential. I wanted to do luxury representation. And those were more my people, for lack of a better word. But I really had wanted to do some luxury stuff, and I thought that there were certain brands out there that would accommodate that a little bit more easily. And my sister was like, Michelle, like, no, like, once you see this model, you're not going to be able to unsee it. And so, you know, it took me a while to get the buy-in. I mean, probably COVID and all of that crazy year had that happen, but I went to my first EXP con, which she paid for me to attend, which is a great point. I mean, I do that for the people, you know, in my rev share line now. And I walked in and I was like, oh, I get it. Like, I'm not a hype person. I am, you know, often very, if it doesn't provide value, I will not sell it to you. But that's the easiest part about EXP, is that there's so much value prop, and there's so much that we can do to solve people's problems with this model, that, yeah, she was right. Once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And so that's kind of how I chose EXP, is because my baby sister told me to.
So that's a great story. And then, yeah, EXPCon is a game changer to help open your eyes. But is there anything specific on the commercial side that creates a really kind of an unfair advantage for you over some of the larger firms?
Unfair advantage for me. Oh gosh. I mean, yeah, yes, there definitely is. So there's a lot of brokers out there who, you know, they might be young in their career, or they own their own brokerage. And you know, I'm able to problem solve a little bit for them when I talk about EXP commercials. So we have an 80-20 split on the commercial side. So, and a $20,000 cap per year, 20,000. So you can start in with your bigger brokers on some of those brand, you know, larger player names in the world, and you can ask them, hey, how much did you pay your brokerage last year? And there's one agent I spoke with a couple months back, and he's trying to finish up a couple of transactions. He's like, Michelle, I've been in commercial real estate 6 months, and I've paid them $250,000. And I said, okay, great. What is your cap? And he said, there is no cap. Ever. No matter how many transactions I do, I will always be paying a 70-30 split to my brokerage. He gets 30%. as a junior agent.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So, and with no cap. So if you're a really high producing junior agent in one of these bigger firms, yeah, you can like stay there and you can continue to hand over your paycheck to them. But I'm sorry, I'm commercial real estate for the numbers. And if you can't figure out why those numbers don't work for somebody, then you're probably in the wrong line of business, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's all the numbers game. So I turn that on its head and I talk to them and I say, hey, like, why, like, how do you like commercial real estate? Do you like it more than residential? If you ever did residential, why wouldn't you do residential? Oh, it's so emotional. It's not numbers driven. It's any of those things. And then I just turn that and pivot that right on its head and say, you just described to me an emotional experience with your brand name brokerage, and you've paid them 250 grand this year on one transaction. So that's a
Wow.
really easy sell.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. That
Yeah.
is a great, that's unbelievable. That is so compelling. We've got less than 2 minutes left here, if you can believe that. Doesn't time go like just incredibly fast? If you had one piece of advice to give realtors right now, this is a crazy market on the commercial side, financing, we met at ComLoan, great things going on there. What is the single most important piece of advice you feel like you could offer somebody right now who's contemplating maybe even getting out of the business?
Diversify. I know that sounds crazy. Educate yourself. Read, find ways to diversify your income streams and see what you can make happen. Use your resources, reach out and leverage those. Like, I mean, you could make a heck of a living off of just referring commercial deals over to me.
Huh.
That's what I'll say.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And you used it again, resourceful, be resourceful. That is awesome. Michelle, I'm so excited that you were able to take time out of your busy day and be on the show with us. You're very inspiring and have such a compelling story, especially because we all know that commercial real estate is hard and it's not really known as a woman's space either. And for you to be as successful as you are and to have done as well as you have and will continue to do, it's so inspiring to watch you, and we're going to continue to watch you. Would you make a deal with me? Could you possibly come back in the next 6 months for a checkup from the neck up?
Sure, absolutely.
I'd love
Happy
that.
to. Would
And
love that.
I'll be seeing you. I won't see you in San Antonio, but I'm sure I'll see you in Vegas for
I will be
EXP
in
Con
Vegas.
again.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If someone's watching today and they wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So you can reach my EXP email address, which is michelle.pauley@expcommercial.com. Or we'll have some, ads for Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. Commercial real estate is really heavy on LinkedIn. But you can reach out there and then send me a message and we'll schedule a phone call or a Zoom or whatever we need to do. I would love to connect.
You got it. So great to see you again. I'll look forward to the next time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cliff.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. C3, we missed you, but we made it by. And I'm going to send everybody much love from Lincoln Center in North Dallas and wish you guys a great second half to the year. Everybody stay tuned. We will not be back next week. We'll be at Build in San Antonio, but 2 weeks, we've got a knockout guest coming. See you then on Cliff's Notes. So tune in every Thursday where we'll give you the tips, tricks, and tactics to explode your business. I guarantee it.